Hello everyone, I'm Meghan Sullivan and welcome to my thoughts on the Final Fantasy XVI PlayStation 5 demo. Did it convince me that this game is worth $70? Let's find out. But first, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell, and I'll be sure to bring you more RPG goodness in the future. Thank you. The demo is a little over 3 hours long and comes in 2 parts. The prologue, which is essentially the first very intense 2 hours of the game, and features Clive at different formative stages of his life, and a separate combat mode known as Iconic Challenge that lets players tinker with the different techniques and abilities Clive acquires much later in the game. I thought this was a really great way to introduce both the story elements and the combat system by giving them both a chance to shine in separate parts of the demo. And what a demo! It gives us a small slice of the Game of Thrones-esque story and characters while letting players try out the fast and frenzied Devil May Cry combat, and I have to say I am already hooked. This combination of heavy drama and agile fighting works really well together and is utterly captivating. Before I go any further though, I have to talk about the breathtaking graphics and fantastic music. As others have already noted, Final Fantasy XVI is big on spectacle and I love it. The cutscenes are incredibly detailed. They're bursting with color. The particle effects in this game are insane, and everything from the colossal icons that fill the screen to the movement of the tiniest facial muscles are given lots of love and care. And the incredible light and shadowing effects add nuanced beauty to the world. It's all a feast for the eyes. And the music by Final Fantasy XVI's main composer, Soken Masayoshi, is such a treat for the ears. It's big and swelling where it needs to be, soft and delicate at just the right moment. And I got misty-eyed in the game's opening moments as a somber rendition of Final Fantasy's Prelude accompanied a sweeping battle scene in which icons raged and men spilled blood without mercy. It's an astoundingly profound moment, and the music quite literally underscores the tragedy unfolding before our eyes. And it is tragic. So as you might already know from the trailers and previously released information about the game, Final Fantasy XVI follows the story of Clive Rosfield, the firstborn son of the Archduke of Rosaria, on his quest for vengeance against those who horribly murdered his family. While on his journey, Clive gets entangled in the ongoing war between the 6 nations of Valisthea, which are fighting over the use of mother crystals, whose increasingly rare ether powers the magic people use in their daily lives. These wars are not only fought with men, though. Each nation has its own icon, a colossal elemental being that can be wielded by gifted magic users known as dominates, who use the icon's powers to defend or attack at will. It's during Clive's journey that we see how being a dominate can be both a blessing and a terrible curse. Right out the gate, Final Fantasy XVI is a thrilling, gritty ride, and I found myself breathless as Clive's life was constantly in danger of being snuffed out by everything from icons to treacherous soldiers to creepy-looking goblins. Even slower story beats are gripping as characters both major and minor are fleshed out, sharing their dreams, hopes, and anxieties. I should note that the voice acting is truly excellent, with actors fully committing to their characters and smoothly vaulting over the occasional cringy line and turning it into something deeper and more meaningful. By the way, Final Fantasy XVI is definitely M for mature, with its jolting violence and eyebrow-raising scenes that get a little steamy. It's definitely the most adult version of Final Fantasy yet, but although it's steeped in reality, it doesn't forget its fantasy roots. Very early on, Clive finds himself pitted against classic Final Fantasy beasts like goblins and even a Marlborough, and it's up to the player to help him defeat these fantastic fiends. And while the enemies hail from ye olden times, the combat style itself is definitely new to Final Fantasy. And as I mentioned, it takes its cues from frenzied action games like Bayonetta, Nier, and Devil May Cry. In fact, part of the team at Platinum Games helped out on Final Fantasy XVI, which might explain why the combat feels so utterly amazing. I admit, folks, I had my doubts about taking Final Fantasy in a completely action-based direction, but I was hooked on the combat. It's just really fun, and it feels really smooth and responsive. Clive's attacks are tethered to both a variety of sword techniques that require button combos to pull off, and a reliance on multiple icons that provide Clive with their own set of unique elemental attacks, and can be swapped between between in battle at any time. Each icon has a super useful repertoire of icon abilities, powerful elemental attacks that include Garuda's Rising Attack Wicked Wheel and Phoenix's Fiery Rising Flames. Chaining these attacks with sword techniques result in a spectacular burst of color and satisfying damage to enemies. However, enemies have some tough attacks of their own. Luckily, Clive can evade and counter these attacks in a series of quick-time events, and if his attacks are successful enough, he can break an enemy's will, leaving them staggered and vulnerable to more attacks. Because button combos are mapped out in an intuitive way and input time is super responsive, the action stayed fast and furious, and I felt accomplished every time the game rewarded my clever use of chain attacks with bonus damage, which in turn meant better rewards like experience and items at the end of battle. But my favorite thing about combat is that Clive can't do this all alone. Always by his side is the bestest boy ever, Torgal, who will fight with Clive and even heal him. Oh, there are some humans who will occasionally join Clive on his adventures, but you can't directly control them, so who cares about them? Good Torgal, good boy. The gameplay isn't just the same straight action though. There are crazy icon fights where two massively overpowered summons, yes, I'm using Final Fantasy X terminology here, will duke it out kaiju style. The cinematics in these fights are jaw-dropping. And while the first fight that I encountered was on rails and full of quick-time events, the bonanza of action that plays out more than makes up for it. These fights are super entertaining to say the least. Now there's a lot going on during these crazy action sequences, which is why I appreciate the developer trying to make the heads-up display as unobtrusive as possible. Everything from your health to your item shortcut to your icon abilities is easy to see and access. I will say that the effects and constant text that comes up can be a little bit distracting at times, but other than the evade button being hidden under a wall of fire at one point, it wasn't too bad. In short, combat is awesome. I can't say as much about exploration though, as most of the paths in the demo are fairly linear. With that said, I like that Clive can kick and climb and manfully shoulder past heavy doors. Final Fantasy XVI makes good use of the PlayStation 5's haptic feedback, whether it's the beating of a scared heart or the shaking of the ground being stomped on by an icon. Another clever feature in Final Fantasy XVI is the active time lore system, as opposed to the active time battle system, get it? This feature lets you pause a cutscene and look up information about characters and terminology that appear in the scene. I really welcome this feature because it's easy for me to lose track of who is who and who did what in lore-heavy games, and the ability to review important information at will makes following Valisthia's complicated politics much easier. What can I say? I'm really smitten with this demo, and I haven't been able to say that about a game in quite a long time. Everything about it is perfect. Well, almost. While in graphics mode, there are a few tiny frame rate stutters, but considering everything else was going smoothly on screen, that's more than okay. The visuals, the music, the voice acting, the smooth and frenzied combat, and the engrossing story have convinced me that indeed, Final Fantasy XVI is worth its weight in gil. And that's it for this review of the Final Fantasy XVI demo. Did you play it? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you later.